Welcome to I Still Call It a Lariat, a pro wrestling podcast. This is a bit of a cleansing episode. There was no pay-per-views to review this past weekend. It's kind of nice for once. We have a lot of stuff to preview as far as pay-per-views go this week. My name, stevezapf, the original line in pro wrestling that you do not cross. And with me, as always, my tag team partner, Mr. Showtime, Michael Wright. How you doing over there, Mike?
Oh, you know me, Steven. I'm living the dream.
Let's get right into it. First things first, I'm going to plug our nonprofit, Tap Cancer Out. Huge organization. Helps out with Alex's Lemonade Stand, American Brain Tumor Association, Isabella Santos Foundation, Little Pink Houses of Hope, Camp Sunshine, Christopher's Haven, Sidney Kimmel Comprehensive Cancer Center at Johns Hopkins, CureCervicalCancer.org, First Descents, and Tom Coughlin's J Fund. As always, this is a huge organization. It does a lot of good work, and the information and links will be in our descriptions, whether you're watching this on YouTube, listening to us on whatever streaming service you are using right now. But guys, please help out with this great organization. But let's get to wrestling. So, around the world wrestling news-wise, Io Sky to fight at Marigold for their championship. That's kind of a big deal. This goes along with what we've been talking about, that TKO, the TKO version of WWE will let their people go outside of their world and do some stuff. Triple H has been doing it. He let Shayna Baszler do the Bloodsport thing for GCW. He let, even though it was still half and half, but he let Shinsuke Nakamura be involved in Great Muta's last tour. And now the stuff with this is all kind of big deals as far as everyone's talking about these forbidden doors. And I feel like these forbidden doors are just getting chopped down with an axe at this point.
Yeah, I think this one is the biggest news of all at this point in time. Like, it should be no secret. Io was the former women's champion right before Mania. It's only been a couple months since she's not been the WWE women's champion. So now her being able to go to Marigold and compete there, I think that's such a huge deal on like saying no talent is safe. Like this week, Cody Rhodes could show up on Impact. He's not going to. He's going to show up on NXT apparently, but he could technically show up on Impact. So I just think that this is one of those things where anyone can show up anywhere at this point in time. So I think it gives that little bit of extra excitement. And if you are a fan of WWE, maybe exclusively, you're going to have to start watching some other stuff, or at least catching up on the interactions that they have in either a TNA, Marigold, wherever else that they end up starting to partner with. Because Marigold's not the only Japanese federation or company that they're going to be teaming up with, it sounds like. So this could lead to a couple really cool interactions with people you didn't really expect, and get ready for other people to start showing up out of the blue, like surprise entrances to the Royal Rumble, surprise matches, open challenges being answered by people who don't work in WWE. I think that they're really willing to add some talent, add a little bit of a spotlight to a different company that they don't feel is really their competitor because they're so much smaller than them or in a different country. But at the same time, being able to kind of give them that spot in the sun, maybe even put some of the people over in the other companies here and there to kind of elevate their game as well.
So there's been rumors for a couple of years now that Triple H's plan was to make an NXT Japan. This could really be the kind of the start of that. And I mean, the real start of it was they let Charlie Dempsey, who is William Regal's son, go wrestle in their Triple Crown tournament. So I think this is them planting their seeds already too. This is just proof like, hey, we can let you go wrestle over there, and there is no competition. They're in competition with themselves right now. Anyone who wants to say anything differently, it's not true. Right now, the only people in competition with WWE is WWE.
Well, let me put that in a different way. I don't disagree with what you're saying. I just like a different narrative for it. Is that now the only competition they have is elevating the product. So though I would like to put a little rosier shine on that, because by doing this, they're kind of like, rising tide lifts all boats. By bringing the top tier talent and having them go toe to toe with other places, that means that talent is at their level. I remember back when WCW came into the invasion, and Vince was very much about squashing WCW, about showing that my talent was way better than your talent. And it took a while. Like some of the people, like Booker T is a great example of someone who got over that hump, after getting squashed to death by Triple H at certain situations. But he was very much in the mindset that I want us to look like our superstars are so much better than the competitions. And that's not what's happening right now. Right now, they're putting parity into place here, like having people like Jordan Grace come in and go toe to toe with the NXT Women's Champion. That's a change of dynamics that we haven't seen in WWE probably ever.
I can't think of any time. I mean, usually when they did it, it was like a one-off. Like, hey, we might have wrestler B from Japan coming in, and sometimes it was someone who you never heard of because, in all honesty, the NWA and WCW had a better working relationship with the better promotions in Japan for a long time.
Mhm.
So they would get first crack at some of that talent, mainly because WCW would let their top talent go wrestle for New Japan. So they would be able to work it better. I love that this keeps happening though. Like you said, I think this is an elevation of pro wrestling as a product in general. We are back to a world where we are watching pro wrestlers. They are not sports entertainers; they are pro wrestlers, and thank God. Realistically, like this is most of our prayers answered, right? Like this is what we wanted. This is pro wrestling is back, and pro wrestling is cool again, and pro wrestling is making a lot of money.
And I don't care what The Rock says. I think we made pro wrestling cool again. It wasn't him. It was just us.
It was just
We
us. It was
started.
this show.
We started it first, and then he came in.
Yeah, it's this show. Obviously, he doesn't know what he's talking about. What? Just because he's made more money than God?
Sure, whatever, Dwayne.
Rock the Dwayne Johnson. I see you. To go along with doors being opened and shut, NXT had their Battleground event. They crowned a new women's North American champion. My issue with this is the only new champion that they crowned at this event. And Showtime, you said it all last week. A lot of this was for subverting expectations, and I think that's something they had a real cool chance to do with this show. Now, at no point in my little brain did I ever think that Jordan Grace was going to win the NXT Women's Championship. But first of all, how cool would it have been if she did? Secondly, even if she doesn't, I think having Ethan Page win that title, or realistically having the Good Brothers win the tag team titles. I realize you're trying to elevate younger talent by having Axiom and Nathan Frazier keep the NXT tag team titles, but you have the men's North American Championship, you have the women's championship, you have the NXT championship, and you have the tag team championship, and all four of them were defended successfully by the champion. I think that kind of takes away the act of surprise. And don't get me wrong, I like a little bit of stability sometimes, but this was a chance where you could have done something really cool. You could have had Ethan Page win it. You could have had Jordan Grace win it at this point. I like the fact that Jordan Grace didn't win it because of shenanigans. It makes it seem as though she didn't necessarily lose to Roxanne Perez. She just didn't win. So I do like that. I also like that they still use Dana Brooks and they used her by Ash by Alexans, which is her TNA name. I know a lot of people are talking about that, but that's kind of a big deal, is that you're giving them credit for their name that you're not using anymore. Most times when you bring someone back into your promotion, you bring them back as the name you use them, especially WWE. I notice we're not calling him Drew Galloway. He's Drew McIntyre. Most people
I
don't
think
know who Drew Galloway is.
this is a little bit different, but I'm with you. I thought them calling her Dana Brooke, kind of like showing that she had history here, was something. I feel like that was calculated. It was an accident, air quotes, kind of accident for those just listening. But just to kind of, because like they're trying to kind of keep that door open. I think they kept Jordan Gray strong. By the way this ended, I wouldn't be surprised if Roxanne Perez is the one that answers this open challenge coming up on Friday. So keep that one out there, like a nice little rematch on TNA, where then Jordan Grace goes over, because then you can have a cool little back and forth where now those two champions are on the same level. So it's almost saying that the NXT brand and the TNA brand are the same. It still gives WWE in general kind of the huge step up, because this is their developmental league, if you want to call it that. But it could be a cool way to kind of show parity within the two women's champions at least.
So, Showtime, I know you talked about this a little bit last week, that this could be a good way for WWE to maybe start funding TNA a little bit, maybe get into that, where maybe they're again, this is a great way to elevate TNA just in general. Same thing with EO going to Marigold. This is a good way to elevate them. I was saying this to you before the show, and I think, and I'm not saying that they would do this, because the TKO run WWE is still a bit different than the Vince run WWE. It's still Triple H though, and Triple H will still kind of give a shot across the bow every so often, to so to speak. And though I don't think that they would do something so deliberate as to, well, hey, we're actually actively trying to show that AEW, is on a different level than we are, I wouldn't be surprised if they would fund TNA a little bit, just to try to make them maybe the real number two in the US right now. I don't know if it's possible, but I could see them saying it as, well, this is how little we care about that other promotion. We gave money to this to TNA, and without even trying, made them the number two. Wait, sorry.
I think something's happening in the background. I don't have my crystal ball right here. It's in storage. I get in trouble when I break that thing out. But like, I think something's happening in the background. They're trademarking the WCW name again, and maybe that's just because of Who Killed WCW just came out, and maybe that's the reason why. Who knows? They're working with TNA very closely all of a sudden, and there's lots of rumors that there's going to be people there this week at TNA as well, from NXT or from WWE at TNA. Now, I heard something along the lines, I don't know where I'm stealing this from, and I apologize, I wish I could source you, that maybe there is a possibility of NXT and TNA actually merging and kind of getting that main event level talent from TNA that they have there, adding it to the kind of the rookies in TNA, and kind of having maybe a rebirth of WCW within in that name, or TNA or NXT, whatever that ends up being. Like, kind of having a merger there and getting being able to elevate NXT from just being developmental to being actually like a prime number two in the marketplace. Kind of what they wanted to do with WCW in the first place when they bought it, because originally it was supposed to be Monday Nitro WCW, and then I think Friday SmackDown was WWE, and then they did the Buff Bagwell Booker T match, and they were like, "Oh, this is terrible. We can't do this." And so like, I don't know what's going on. I'm not trying to spread misinformation or anything like that, but to me, like, my radar is up. I think something is happening, even if there's some kind of cool like coalition kind of being formed where you might see a super card start to come around, where you have some Japanese representation, TNA representation, you have NXT representation, and then the main event has whoever happens to be the number one everywhere else against a main roster star. I could see that coming to fruition in the near future. They're already not afraid to start expanding their own pay-per-views or the PLEs. We know that next year's SummerSlam is going to be 2 nights, like WrestleMania. So they're already in this
Not
kind of expansion
next year,
mode.
the year after. 2026.
Oh, it's 2026. It's not 2025. Okay, but even still, like that summer's, they're already talking about expanding it to more. So they're in this expansion mode, building a big coalition, doing all of this stuff. It's not going to happen this year. It's not going to happen in 2024. It's going to happen in the future after they plant all of these seeds and they start showing kind of what they can start reaping what they sow and whatnot. So I'm excited to see what kind of happens next year. I would love to see TNA because they got some good talent down there, and I'll get into TNA in a little bit, but I could really see them benefiting in a great deal. And they just announced that TNA Plus is kind of, they're moving stuff to TNA Plus. They're eliminating the YouTube channel, I believe, and moving everything to TNA Plus, and then they lowered the price of TNA Plus. So I think they're trying to give people more access to it, knowing that Access doesn't have much access to the normal people. So I was trying to make sure I pronunciated that right.
That's Axis has access.
Yes, that's I said it right.
Yes. But I really like the idea of what you were saying too. Like, I know obviously AEW does Forbidden Door. We've been talking. They talk about Forbidden Door every year. It's kind of not a Forbidden Door anymore. It's just a door. It's kind of like a doggy door. WWE did a couple years ago. They called it the World Cup, and they did have talent from at least different regions. I realized they were all technically WWE talent or NXT talent, but they would do stuff like that where it was or crossing borders or something like that. They called it. And that was really cool. I think that's something that they could do with this, where how you said it was like a super card, but instead of, you could do something where this is actually a worldwide tournament that they could do. They could do a real worldwide tournament now. And I think that would be huge. And I know you always love a good tournament.
Oh, give me a good tournament. I'm in for it. I also we talked about the draft not so long ago and how kind of underwhelming it was. But the idea of being able to trade wrestlers from different things, like let's say WWE decided to sign Ricochet, and then they made a 6-month trade with TNA for Joe Hendry for Ricochet, to let them kind of go on other sides, and they go back after 6 months. That would be fun. It would be cool to see like people come over for X amount of time, see what kind of damage they can do, and then kind of go back. I don't know if we'll ever see something like that, but if they do form some sort of like the territory days, like an NWA territory, but globally, since the world is smaller than it was back then, I could really see some really cool traveling, some really cool, maybe like an international champion that like is really an international champion, like someone who's constantly doing dates all over the globe and showing up at different promotions, like the NWA World Champion used to do. Could be super cool. Bring back the big gold for that. Like, I'm in.
I think that would be super cool. So what you're saying is it would be like, hey, we'll trade Ricochet and a tag team to be named later for Moose.
Yeah, exactly. Like 100%.
Like, we could really do that, and it would be like baseball trades, basically. I think that's.
Or I see it more like the Premier League. In that's soccer for people, or football for international
football matches, not football games.
Yeah. Yes. Exactly. What they would do, because a lot of times they'll lend players to other clubs, and just because they want those players to get real game time, but they don't actually make the main roster at this point in time. So they kind of give them to like lower clubs or whatever. I could see that happening in this weird collision I just literally came up on the spot with, because that's fun. And like, then you never know who's going to show up. Like, you could have these like like in mid show being like breaking trade, and then X Music's hit, and everyone freaks out because they never thought they would see him at this place.
I think that would be really cool, actually. I mean, I'm excited about this just in general. I think this is making the wrestling world both bigger and smaller. Like we're getting more access to stuff, so it's making everything seem bigger, but also we have more access to it, so it's a lot easier for us to get to it. Other than that, I know Jordan Grace after her match ripped her ear apart, or during her match ripped her ear apart, and swore that she's never going to wear piercings during her matches ever again. I don't blame her.
I support that decision.
It was pretty gnarly looking. I just want to. I'm gonna gush a little bit over this match. I know we've been gushing over some of these women's matches a lot lately, but this match was really good. Again, this card in general was pretty good. I just would have liked a little bit more shock and awe. I think the most shocking thing was the fact that the Good Brothers didn't win the NXT Tag Team titles. I thought, which was also a really, really good match. If anyone has not watched Battleground, you should probably go back and watch Battleground. It was a pretty good card all around, and you get to see a little bit on why guys like Ethan Page were being sought after when their contract went up. But Showtime, let's move on to your new pet project, and that's TNA.
TNA. TNA was great this week. It was another solid show. Nothing too crazy to write home about. AJ Francis beat the Laredo Kid to win the Digital Media Championship, which I'm not quite sure what a Digital Media Championship is and why it's digital media, because they have matches on TV. I know originally when they brought this belt out, there was more like online aspects of it, but they just got rid of the online stuff. I hope they rename this. Maybe they'll name it to the Top Dollar Championship, but who knows? It definitely won't be jumping over the top rope, but that was pretty notable. But the match of the night for me was Frankie Kazarian versus Nick Nemeth. Match was awesome. It's a clinic. You guys should go, and I'm going to tell everybody every week one match that they should go back and watch on TNA. This one was absolutely fantastic. The two of these guys just show why they're great veterans in the industry. But they had some really good spots. I won't ruin too many of them, but they're like a cutter out of nowhere, counter to a super kick that you wouldn't really see coming. There's some cool stuff in this match.
I feel like this match has everything that you normally look for too. Like, it had a good story, it had good pacing. I know you're big on pacing during matches.
Big on pacing. This was perfect on pacing.
And I feel like they were moving fast enough to make it athletic, but moving slow enough where you didn't get lost in the shuffle of what they were doing.
100%. Yeah, so for me, that is just a preference of mine, and I know everybody has their own things. You should like what you like. But if a match can move fast enough that it breaks my disbelief, because in my mind, if you're moving that fast and doing those moves that quickly, it can't be scripted. It's just your brain turns it to being like, oh no, these guys are just going at each other. And wow, what a counter. And look at that roll up. And look at that. That's what gets me into the match. It gets me leaning forward into a match. It just sells me every single time. And these two guys definitely landed that. And then they did some really good build for Against All Odds. You had Joe Hendry come out, and they are building this kid. He's older than most people, but they're building Joe Hendry to be the next world champion. I'm calling it now. He's going to be the one that takes down Moose. I think it's going to be relatively soon. He came out and took out the whole system by himself until he gets hit in the back with a kendo stick, and then the Nemeth boys and Joe Hendry were left lying around in the ring with the system standing over them with all the belts. It was a really cool build, and then I wish Matt Hardy was there, because since he's fighting Moose at Against All Odds, but that's not here nor there.
They can't take that chance with Matt Hardy. If he steps the wrong way these days, they could blow up that pay-per-view main event.
Sure, but then they would have just replaced him with Joe Hendry, because he doesn't seem to be on that card at all. And Joe Hendry is he was the one that was there. He was essentially the one going up against Moose in that, like, of the people who were there, because the Nemeth boys are down, and then he comes in. He's essentially the next in line for Moose, in my opinion, based on the way they're bucking up. And so what I do want to say is, like, next week, if you guys are NXT fans, I'd keep an eye on Impact next week because they're going to start showing up. Someone's going to show up out of nowhere, and when we have this Friday against all odds, I'm assuming someone's going to show up this week at Impact and take Jordan Grace up on her open challenge to then set up for the pay-per-view.
I also think so. Obviously, there's going to be certain top stars that don't have the option to go do this week, because if they're doing against all odds on Friday, they're already announcing that SmackDown is from Scotland, so they're already saying that, like, they're taping SmackDown from Scotland this Friday, which means they're already there. Don't be surprised though if there's at the very least NXT stars in the crowd, so to speak. Like, they'll have plans. They'll have people there, like, oh, this guy's an NXT guy. This guy's the NXT North American champion, or a very, very obvious, like, mid-carder from WWE main roster. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if you saw someone like an LA Knight or something there that's not on the card in Scotland, on either of the cards in Scotland. LA Knight's one of the ones I'm just throwing out there. He's obviously going to be on SmackDown the night before Clash at the Castle, but you know what I'm saying. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if they put in someone along those lines where it's like, oh, this guy, oh, they're letting them do this, huh?
I wouldn't be surprised if it's Roxanne Perez. Like, if she comes back and takes the open challenge, I let you fight me for the NXT title. Now I want the knockouts. I want a shot at the knockouts. That's what I'm hoping for, because they did have a great match on NXT. Now let's let them have a good match on TNA. It might be Ash by Elegance. They're kind of setting that up as well. So I feel like that was almost like a safety net for Roxanne. Like, if Roxanne Perez can't make her, we're gonna do Ash by Elegance because she kind of came out. We kind of gave her that spot. So I think it's gonna be one of the two, but we'll see kind of how that all fleshes out. But I did want to do a quick rundown of Against All Odds because this match, this card looks absolutely awesome from a TNA standpoint. A lot of tag team matches.
A lot of tag
which I was surprised on.
So you want to go main event to pre-show, or pre-show to main event?
I'm gonna go the pre-show to main event. So you have Sami Callihan versus Jonathan Gresham. I love the work that Jonathan Gresham is doing. I love the octopus gimmick. I want to see more of it. I want to see where it's kind of going. I hope he builds his own little stable of ink spitting lackeys or whatever you want to call it. They did have, this is a rematch from last week's Impact, which I was not a big fan of because they didn't spend any time in the ring. But I don't know. Maybe they'll prove me wrong. So Steve, I know we're not going to do real predictions where we're going to keep them in the record books or anything like that. But yeah, you think you know who's going to win this match?
The Callahan Gresham match. I feel like it's probably going to be Gresham. I feel like they're trying to build him up a bit, and I do like that he's not just another good wrestler now. I like that they have a storyline. Callahan can win or lose this match at this point, and he's still going to have the same push with TNA that he normally does. So him losing this match doesn't hurt him. I mean, Callahan Auto, Sandusky, Ohio.
Yeah.
So he's got something to go back to.
I'm with you. I think Gresham takes this one down. I think he's kind of primed for it. I believe he lost last week at Impact, or not last week, the week before, whatever it was. And so I think this is kind of his rematch to get one back over. Next one is Josh Alexander and Eric Young versus ABC, which ABC is what's called Ace Austin and Chris Bay, right?
Yes, I'm very excited about this match.
I'm pumped for this match. I saw Ace Austin and Chris Bay. That was the match last week that I said everyone should go back and watch. I think that they probably turned some heads last week. I think that's the main reason that they're on this card against These two against Alexander
so
and Eric
ABC
Young.
are the former TNA tag team champions.
Okay, so
They
I'm new to coming back to this now.
So ABC, this is one of those situations where they started off feuding with each other over the X Division title. And then they got together because they were part of TNA's version of the Bullet Club. And then they had the match again last week or the week before, whenever we're speaking of, and they showed that they're still tearing the house down. I like the fact that Ace Austin, he posted recently too, he's bulking, so to speak. He's trying to get a little bit bigger. He doesn't want to look just like an X Division wrestler or
they are small guys. Like they are slender.
So Ace Austin posted the picture. He's up a little over the 200-pound mark right now, and I don't think he's 6 foot. So 200 pounds at like 5'10", 5'9", 5'10", that's a decent sized dude. That's something where you can start dancing into that heavyweight division a little bit more. So I'm excited about this match. I'm excited about this card, in all honesty. The next match that you're going to talk about, I'm really excited about for this one too.
Well, who do you have for Alexander and Young versus ABC?
I think it's going to be ABC, honestly, and I think this is going to set up a little bit of a Josh Alexander versus Eric Young thing.
I see that. I think this is getting ABC back into the title picture because we'll talk a little bit later about the Nemeth Boys versus the System and kind of what that means. But I think that they're going to start grooming up number one contenders for the tag team titles after that match, regardless of which way it goes. And these guys could be two people who could step in relatively quickly for that shot. The next one is Mike Santana, which I think this is his in-ring return. I don't know if he's wrestled before since coming back.
I'm not sure. I think he might have had one or two matches in TNA, and because I think him and Macklin actually fought each other. I think Don't hold me that.
Oh yeah, you're right. He did. They did fight each other,
and that was kind of how this all started because the Rascals were kind of like screwing it up.
Yeah.
I'm very excited about this match. I like Mike Santana. Steve Macklin is a friend of mine. The Rascals, Zachary Wentz is also a friend of mine. He's a training partner. So I have a little bit of personal skin in this game, and these are also four guys who I really like. The Rascals, though I'm not always big on certain high flyers, their stuff is so revolutionary that when they do stuff, it's like, oh man, it's so outside the box that it's cool. Like I can't, even I'm in on it. So I will make my pick already. I think this is going to be Santana and Macklin. I still don't think but also I wouldn't be surprised if it's somehow the Rascal. This is another one I could see where they're grooming somebody in this to go after whoever wins between the Nemeth Boys and the System.
I can see that. I don't think they keep Mike Santana and Steve Macklin together. I don't see them going to. I think they're both single stars at the end of the day. Particularly Mike Santana. I think they're going to try to push him to the single star. I actually wouldn't be surprised if you saw him go for a belt, maybe not the world title, but like one of the other belts out here in short order. But I'm with you, Macklin and Santana for the win. The next one is Mustafa Ali versus Trent Seven for the X Division Championship. I think this is going to be another amazing match. I think Mustafa Ali is incredibly underrated. He does some really good work in the ring. Like this match is like essentially my list of underrated workers because they're all in TNA and not a lot of people are watching them. And so I think this is going to be a great match from start to finish. I'll throw mine out first this time. I think Mustafa Ali retains. I think he's really over in TNA right now, and I don't think they're ready to take the belt off of him. I think they'll be taking the belt off of him when they're ready to push him to the main event seat.
I agree. I think Mustafa Ali retains. I could see him doing the option C for the X Division title if they're still allowing that, which is for Destination X, which is like their X Division pay-per-view, even though it's not an X Division pay-per-view. They always do an Ultimate X match, stuff like that. I could see them, if that's still a pay-per-view, and he can still use option C, I could see him being the guy that turns in for option C, which you turn in the X Division title and get an automatic shot at the world title.
That'd be cool.
So
After that
I do
is
agree. I think Ali on
yeah.
that one.
Next is the Nemeth Boys versus the System, which I'm so pumped about them tagging up. They built this is like the best storyline they have going in TNA right now is the System versus essentially everybody. It started with like the champions versus everybody, but the champions were almost exclusively the System. There's like Mustafa Ali was in there, and Laredo Kid was another one that was in the match because they were champions. But essentially, and Jordan Grace, of course. But essentially, it was the System, and because they held more than half of the titles at the time. So the System versus the Nemeth Boys, I think it's going to be an absolute banger of a match. I think that they've been building this really, really well. I think the Nemeth Boys dethrone the System. You don't want to trust in the System too much because the Nemeth Boys are going to come out here and they're going to take those belts away.
I'm going with the Nemeth Boys as well. Damn the man, save the Empire.
Let's do it. So that's fun. I'm pumped to see these guys work together. I think it's gonna be a good time. Jordan Grace's open challenge. I think that regardless who cashes in, I think Jordan Grace is going to retain. But I want to see Roxanne Perez. I think it'd be so cool for her to come in and kind of do that storyline as I was mentioning before. Of I gave you a shot at the NXT title. Now it's my turn. So I can see that being really cool. They put on a great match. They put on another great match and kind of tear down the house.
I would really like to see that. What you said with Roxanne Perez. I do think Jordan Grace retains no matter what. I think she's a star. She is doing awesome.
She's got
stuff.
such a good look. I mean,
So my wife was watching the match with me for Battleground, and the first thing she said when Jordan Grace came out was, "Oh, that lady's big." I went, "Yeah, she is.
She's swole, as the kids call it.
She is swole, as the kids say, but she is what? How did they say it in Letterkenny? She is jacked and ripped. She's both of those things." But I do stick with Jordan Grace on this one.
And then Moose versus Hardy. Broken Matt Hardy. Delete.
I'm deleting Hardy on this one.
Me too. Obviously, Moose is gonna. I think it's pretty obvious that Moose is going to retain here. He's been awesome. He puts on some really good matches. His spear is fantastic as he flips at the end of it. Every one of them, it looks devastating. It's really cool. Like nothing looks. I don't think anyone's done the spear better than Rhino. I feel like Rhino has the gore is like the best spear of all times in my opinion. But this one ranks pretty high up there. Because I like the flip at the end, and I just think it feels a little bit more devastating.
So Moose also throws, for being a guy that's that big, because he's a big dude. He's like 6'6" or something like that. He throws a really pretty drop kick too. Like I know we always talk about like Okada's drop kick and stuff like that, but like I think Moose's drop kick might be on par with like the Okadas and stuff in the world. Yeah, especially since he's that big.
Yeah. I mean, all of these guys are very impressive. Would like to see Frankie Kazarian on this card. I would like to see Joe Hendry on this card. I wonder why Joe Hendry isn't on this card on Friday. Is there possibly something on Saturday that he has to be committed to? Is there anything happening on Saturday?
I mean, where's he from again?
He's from Scotland.
Oh, isn't there a wrestling show from Scotland?
I don't know if he's going to show up at Clash of the Castle, but if anyone from TNA shows up at Clash of the Castle,
it should be Joe Hendry. Yeah, Dear God, let them play the music.
If that hits, like someone throws out an open challenge, and he what would be cool? Here's a little bit of fantasy booking that'd be really cool. Logan Paul shows up at Clash of the Castle and offers an open challenge to anyone not named LA Knight. And then say his name and he appeared. That place would go ballistic.
So I could even see him saying it in these terms too. Anyone not named LA Knight and I don't believe anyone will show up. And you just
like,
hear the crowd,
perfect.
Joe Hendry, Joe Hendry, Joe Hendry. And all, like, if you could get something where that happened, oh my God.
Just
Because I
plant a
believe
couple
in Joe
people.
Hendry.
Just plant a couple people in the crowd to start chanting, "We believe, we believe." It's great. That would make my night. I'm all in.
I'm hopeful. No, we're not at all in yet. That's not until like August.
No, but I'm in. I think that'd be so good. And you know what? Like, he's everywhere right now. Joe Hendry's doing some really good interviews with people, really kind of talking about this meteoric rise that he's having, because he's been in the industry for a decent amount of time. He's a solid worker. He like all these songs that he's been doing are really funny. Go back and watch them. The I'm Drew, where it's a parody of Eiffel 65's I'm Blue, is really funny. The Scotty Too Hottie, the worm is the I don't remember exactly how he says it, but it's like it's like the poor man's people's elbow. A lot of these things have been really, really funny, and now with his song hitting the top charts and everyone paying attention to him because he's done such a good job on social media, getting the attention his way, they're pushing him to the moon. I want to see more of him. I want to see him get better in the ring. I want to see him get funnier with some of the stuff that he's doing, and be world champion at TNA, make these appearances. Like, I want them to kind of save him, not for Clash of the Castle, but for the Royal Rumble. Because I think if he goes in there, the Royal Rumble, he has an opportunity to eliminate 2 or 3 guys before he gets eliminated, and that can really put a spotlight on him.
And once that music hits, it's
everyone knows it now. The world knows it. Like, I feel like there's like top 40 radio stations that had to play his theme music on the radio.
Like someone called it, right? Like someone called in and it's like, can you please play Joe Hendry's theme music? And they're like, I don't even know what that is.
Well, the top 40, like they get like they always play the top 40 songs, right? He was on that top 40. Like they're like and from Joe Hendry, I believe in Joe Hendry. Like, what are we doing here, guys? Like, do I have to play this? Like that? Yes, you do, because it's
you have to, because he is in the top 40.
It's so man. Stupid. It's I mean, good.
If nothing else, he is a promotional mastermind.
Well, that's the thing. Like, wrestling has a distinct set of rules. If you draw money, you move up the card, and that's what he did. Simple as that. Like, you don't have to be the best wrestler. Draw
me money.
In all honesty, the best wrestlers rarely are the top guys. Like, sometimes it does happen that way. Like, but recently, like, no one's ever going to say that Hogan's the best wrestler. He was the most over. He had the best gimmick. Money. Drew so much money.
A lot of money.
I think that's what Jey Uso is right now too. I don't particularly think Jey Uso is the best wrestler. I think his matches are fine, but none of them are going to end up being my favorite matches. But he's so over. He's connected with the crowd, and that a lot of times matters more than being a good wrestler. That's what Bret Hart's problem was in certain situations. In WWE, he was awesome. But when he went over to WCW, he really he wasn't great on the mic. Like, he had some good promos, but he was nowhere near the Halls and the Nashes and Hogans on the mic. He could wrestle circles around all those guys. But that place was so promo heavy that I think that's kind of some of the reasons why he wasn't booked the way he
especially
should have been.
The top of the card. I mean,
top of the card.
You're talking about Halls and Nashes and Hogans and some of those other guys. They're
on fire.
Yeah.
So that's, and I don't know, it's speculation. I know I'm going on a little bit of a tangent, but
I was going to say that was a little bit of a tangent. So
to just say, like, him getting himself over in this way means that he's got a one-way ticket up, and I hope he takes full advantage of it, and he really does some cool stuff. Like, I'm rooting for him. Like we said, we believe.
We absolutely believe. So I'm going to reel us back in a little bit. I think that's kind of everything we got for TNA right now. Again, we've been really excited with the stuff TNA's been putting out lately. They've been putting out a good product. If you haven't taken the time to watch some of the TNA stuff, you should probably take the time to watch TNA. It's at least, if you are into actual pro wrestling, They are putting out a true pro wrestling program, and that's all I kind of want in the world. I don't need I don't need car crashes all the time. I need pro wrestling.
And it's a once a week 2 hour card. Like
Exactly.
it's nice. It's nice not having to watch 8 hours of wrestling just to know what's happening.
But we still do it. We still do it. All right. So moving on to AEW stuff. Dynamite this week opened with everyone's favorite person, MJF, Maxwell Jacob Friedman. He's better than you, and he knows it, and we know it. They did what I was afraid they were going to do, and they gave him this baby feud this starter feud to get into with him and Roosh, which by his name is Roosh. He's a former Ring of Honor champion. Here's my thing. I'm not a big fan of Roosh. I think his matches are I think a lot of times he squashes everyone that he's in the ring with, and I think that's more of a sign of him not being able to kind of work with people more than anything else. So he just goes out there and demolishes a lot of people. You can say he's set up to squash these people, but the fact of the matter is he's killing some of these people who are not that much smaller than him, and he's throwing them around like they're rag dolls. And he doesn't look like the monster. So setting someone up as a monster who doesn't necessarily look like a monster isn't always the best idea. I would have preferred MJF being in a main event level feud already. This is not that. He mentioned some other guys. Again, one of the guys he mentions Okada. I would have loved to have seen him get in there with Okada, and the stuff he says about Okada, it's hilarious. He says he's called the Rainmaker, but apparently he can't afford to go to the gym because if you look at his body, he says everything you need to hear. He talks about Swerve and it being Swerve's house. It's like, well, it's only your house because I wasn't here. He's kind of not wrong.
He calls him out on his promo skills too, doesn't he?
He calls him out on his promo skills, and he calls out our boy, Big Willie Ospreay. And when he says bruv, he's like, I love that he jokes around and he goes, it is a fun word. I'll admit it. But he calls out Ospreay for kind of just getting there too. Again, he's calling out some of these people who you could make the argument that the only reason why they have their rise right now is because MJF wasn't there. You could
I like that.
Swerve and Ospreay, I think, would have still been huge no matter what. They were on trajectories as soon as they got there.
But it would have been Swerve beating MJF instead of Samoa Joe. I'm surprised that he's not after Joe right now, because Joe is the one that took the title off of him. I feel like there's a little bit of redemption that he could have gone after. That would have been a better startup feud than Roosh, in my opinion. And I don't know quite what they're doing with Joe. I know
and
Joe
then we wouldn't have this stupid tag team with Joe and Hook.
Yeah, like that's unnecessary as well.
I'm sorry. So, I know that Joe has history with Taz. Taz managed him in TNA for a little bit or whatever it was. This is still a stupid tag team. But back onto track.
Yeah. So I'm not surprised that they're using something like a Roosh to kind of ease him back into it. Mostly because everyone that he's talking about are knee deep in storylines to a certain degree. If AEW storylines, we'll put it that way. So we'll see kind of how this kind of shakes out. But MJF is just kind of getting the ring rust off, and then he's going to be right back in here, and then he's going to be in the main event. I think they're ready to send him right to the top. He looks great. He's cutting the best promos. He's so over with the fans. He's going to be an unstoppable object.
So we got that. Immediately from there, we get a new number one contender for Will Ospreay's international title. We had a 4-way match. Honestly, this match was pretty good. It was Rey Fenix, Orange Cassidy, it was Jay Lethal, and who was the fourth guy again? I just texted you about it before. Either way, Rey Fenix won this match. Oh, it was Kyle O'Reilly. Here's my thing. Kyle O'Reilly has not been setting the world on. Here are my issues with this match. Kyle O'Reilly has not been setting the world on fire. I almost thought they were just going to give it to Orange Cassidy if it weren't for the fact that they're going to keep pushing this Trent Beretta feud that apparently will never end. And Rey Fenix is just recently back. He was kind of the surefire winner of this thing. And Jay Lethal has never won a match in AEW as far as I'm concerned. This is where we're at.
I was rooting for Jay Lethal.
I was rooting for Jay Lethal. I was hoping they were going to let Jay Lethal win this, but the problem is Jay Lethal never wins. And for someone who's possibly one of the best wrestlers that they have, both in the ring and on the mic, and they don't do anything with him. It's hard for me to believe that, again, this is like Pac. It's hard for me to believe that you're a viable threat when you never win.
Mm-hmm.
You have to win every so often. Do I truly believe that wins and losses matter in pro wrestling? No, not really, but it's how you win and how you lose. And if you never win or lose, or if you never win or you never lose, then I don't believe that you're going to do the other one.
The opposite.
But we got Rey Fenix. This match, him and Will Ospreay, whenever they're doing it, it should be good. I think Will, believe it or not, this is where I'm going to say it. I think Ospreay is actually going to rein in Phoenix a little bit, where I think Rey Fenix is going to want to go off the rails with a lot of flippy stuff, and I think Will's going to have to rein him in a little bit, which it's funny because normally if there was a situation, I would have said it was, the other guy is usually the one who has to reel in Will Ospreay a little bit. Hence,
I'm assuming that neither of their feet touch the mat at all. It's gonna be like one of those Dragon Ball Z fights where they're like bing, 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 bing,
and you might actually hear it just like that, where it's like ah.
Yeah, that's what I assume that this match is gonna turn into.
I don't know when this match is taking place.
It's gonna be on Rampage next week, right?
Probably.
Sorry, throw shade. That's sarcasm for those not watching because you can see it on my face.
It was pretty heavy. You could hear the sarcasm, actually. So after this match, Chris Statlander came out between Orange Cassidy and Trent Beretta and laid into Orange Cassidy with she hit him harder than Becky Lynch hit Dom.
Fun. That was a good punch too.
And then Willow Nightingale comes out and makes the save. Afterwards, Willow cut a pretty good promo. I still don't totally understand why Willow isn't getting a rematch for her title, especially since they're 1-1. Technically, if we're gonna go by, all right, Willow beat Mercedes for the NJPW Strong title. Mercedes beat Willow for the TBS title. Shouldn't this automatically decree a rematch? I get that they want to have this feud, but I'd rather
week to week book, bud. Week to week storylines. That's what it is.
I know. But I still would have rather seen this rematch. I think a rematch with Willow and Mercedes would have been better than what we're probably going to get.
And I think you will get it. I think enough people like that match. I think that what they'll probably wait for is for them to be ready for Willow to take the belt. So you're gonna have to probably wait a couple months. Maybe Wembley. You might get lucky at a Wembley show with the two of them again. But I think that they're gonna give Mercedes a little bit of time with this title before they take it off her.
I could see that. And I could see it at Wembley too. I could see that they maybe build up this Willow Statlander feud because they're both former TBS champions now at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Have it go and go and go. Finally, the last match is whoever wins this goes after Mercedes, or they both go after Mercedes at Wembley. Sorry, I lost my word there for a second. Next big set of news for AEW: Bryan Danielson officially enters the Owen Hart Memorial Tournament. This is big because the winner of the tournaments get title shots. By the way, they announced that the winners of these get title shots after the King of the Ring announced it. I just put that out there. Just a little.
How's it worked in the past? So, as you know, I haven't watched a ton of AEW in the past.
So it used to just be that they had this tournament, and this was just another tournament that AEW, Tony Khan and AEW did, to the point where even, I think the first one, it wasn't even for like a trophy. They actually got their, so the winners of the first one were Adam Cole and Britt Baker, which anyone who is in the know knows that they are together, they are dating, and they got like actual title belts. And I think they were like, they got title belts for winning the tournament. And it was like the Hart Foundation symbol on the belt type of thing, or at least specifically Owen's version of it. And I thought that was kind of cool. I don't know. I think this is trying to mark Bryan Danielson out to be the clear-cut next number one contender, at least after all of this is said and done.
But again, in order for Bryan Danielson to do that, he'd have to win a big match.
And he hasn't been, and that's been my thing.
He can't do that, right?
I could actually see Bryan Danielson being in the finals of this tournament and losing to whoever's going to win.
Yes, that follows the script.
I think that's going to happen. I don't know who else is going to be in this tournament, or who else you're trying. Maybe that's how they set up MJF. MJF's in the tournament. We get another Bryan Danielson MJF match. Winner that gets a title shot. I'd be in for that. I'd be okay with that.
MJF goes over on Danielson.
Yep. By the way, Tony Khan, if you're listening, we know you're listening. We're still free if you need help booking. We're here.
Yeah, I'm all about this tournament, these type of tournaments. I love them. I hope they do a lot of it on the same show. Do they usually do a lot of it on the same show, or is it?
So I think a lot of this is a lot of lead up. This isn't like the old school King of the Ring. I think they're gonna do, because I think they usually do. This is usually a big tournament. Like they do, like a 16-person bracket type thing.
Yeah, and I'm cool with a couple matches happening outside of it, and then like half the tournament happens on one show. Like that's how
I don't think that's gonna happen. I think this is gonna be. It's just gonna be a long tournament. It's gonna be like I could see this going from now until Wembley.
Okay.
And the finals are at Wembley, and then realistically, if I'm doing the math the right way, I could see them doing it from now until Wembley. Finals are at Wembley. 2 weeks or 3 weeks later, whenever they do All Out, which is Chicago, which is their other biggest show, that's where the winner of the tournament gets a title shot. In which case,
that'd be cool.
I'm actually excited about this because that's actual storytelling. They're actually telling
stickiness between the two of them.
Yeah, it's getting. That means that they don't need to all of a sudden turn around and try to tell me a story because it's already there. So that would be cool. The other one that they've got going on right now is Mark Briscoe just qualified for the TNT title. He's another one that's going to be involved in, I think it's a 6-person ladder match. We can just call it a 6-person Jamoke match because there's going to be a lot of Jamoking. Can I verb that out? Jamoking?
I'll allow it for now.
All right.
I might revoke it later.
I love Mark Briscoe. If Mark Briscoe walked away with the TNT title at the end of all this, I don't think he's going to, but I would be a happy camper. I love him as Ring of Honor champion. I love the Froggy Elbow. I love the fact that he looked at the fans during this match against Brian Cage and told them to boo the ref. And when they said it, he said, "Boo this man." It's one of those things. It's hard to beat a good character, and aside from being a great wrestler, he has a great character. Other big news, they were building up the Roderick Strong versus Swerve Strickland match. Swerve beat Roddy. We kind of saw this coming. I'm a little disappointed that they didn't do a little bit more with it, though. I thought they could have set it up where maybe shenanigans or something got involved, something where either or just have Roddy win not via pinfall or submission. Have him get a count out, have him get a disqualification, have something happen where Swerve maybe goes back to his baser tendencies. Roddy brings in the title, drops it, Swerve hits him with the title because he still kind of does heel stuff sometimes. It could have been a good way for them to keep this part of Roderick's story going. That is not what happened. We now fully officially have Swerve versus Will Ospreay for the world title at Forbidden Door. I'm just again, I'm not sure where they're going to go with this. It seems like Ospreay is going to keep defending the international title going in. I could see them doing something where he gets screwed out of the international title somehow before this match, or how you said it last week that they're going to merge the titles.
Yeah, I think the merging of the titles makes a lot of sense. I think that they're riding a hot hand. I really wish they would let this be a slower burn before they got Ospreay up here. Like, I don't want to see him champion yet. He doesn't need it yet. Like, I want to wait to the point where I'm like, would they just put the belt on him already? Like, that's what I'd rather get to. Like, I think they're going to snuff out Swerve's kind of push here, and I think it's gonna hurt Swerve a lot. I think you're gonna see him fall into, like, I don't want to say mid card abyss, but which is something AEW does a lot. They like to hype people up for a couple seconds and then they throw them in mid card. So maybe he'll get sucked into the Jericho vortex. That'd be fun.
But maybe. I mean, we get the learning tree and Nana dance all at once.
Dope.
It might be. Outside of that big AEW news, FTR is out indefinitely. You said Dax is hurt. He has a hematoma on his back.
Hematoma,
correct?
Yeah. On his back, he's got this nasty lump. He actually hid it from everybody. So he's been apologizing profusely to everyone at AEW, the medical staff, the people who run the business, everybody, because it apparently happened at Dynasty, where during the pile driver spot.
Okay.
And he hit his back, and it is this nasty kind of thing. And once that's why, if you notice, he started wearing long tights because he was trying to hide it. And then when the doctors found out he was doing it, they told him that if he doesn't get this fixed and doesn't take a break, that he could potentially have to retire early. Which I think the one thing I think is most disappointing about this, obviously, we hope that Dax has a speedy recovery, but they're going to keep Wheeler out. So I don't know why they would, like. It's like one of those things that they love to like WWE, AEW. When one tag team partner's out, it's like, oh, you can't wrestle. You can't be out there in the spotlight. Your tag team partner is not here. We only want you as the pair, which I think is unfortunate. But so FTR in general is going to be on the sidelines until this is all done.
So I will say this, though, with FTR, Dax is usually the one out of the two of them that if one of them is going to do single stuff, it's usually him. I don't know if Cash wants to do anything singles. I know at one point he was looking to be a singles guy, and I think once he found his groove with Dax all those years ago, honestly, I think they are one of the few teams that I don't think ever has any intention of ever breaking up. Like, they're never or going off and having singles glory. Like, I realize it's a very different situation, but like the New Age Outlaws, they were still the New Age Outlaws, and they both ended up getting singles titles, and even the Hardys did it at one point. And I think I don't think they have any intention of going for singles glory ever. And I think even more so on Cash's side of things. I think Cash likes this. I think he likes how the tag team works.
I get all of that. The problem is, about 10 minutes ago, FTR were the only ones standing up to the Elite. That was the storyline yesterday. And now they're both kind of written off TV for a little bit because of this injury. I would like to have seen Cash Wheeler at least still keep up the good fight.
Still trying to keep up the good fight, and maybe he gets hurt. I'm doing quote marks for anyone who's just listening. He gets hurt. This way, there's a reason to keep both of them off TV.
Well, because it just seems like they've moved on. So the Elite won that match and at Double or Nothing, and now we'll just move on because that storyline's done. Week to week.
Well, I mean the proof is in Bryan Danielson. Bryan Danielson moved on. He's in the Owen tournament now.
I'm not sure why he was in that storyline in the first place, but whatever. He's part of a whole different faction.
There's right. I got nothing for you on this one. I don't know why he was in it. I don't know why he was in it. I kind of don't know why Darby Allin was in that match.
No, I did, because Darby Allin has a death wish. He rebroke his nose. His face was terrible after that. Oh my goodness, his face. It haunts my dreams. And
you had the fans showing sympathy, saying someone help Darby.
Yeah, but even Eddie Kingston being in that match. Eddie Kingston was just in that match because, like, what do we do with him? Well, let's just throw him this against the Elite because he hates the establishment. Nah.
I just think there were better choices. A better choice might have been to not have that match, but that's neither here nor there. If you're one of those people who likes that sort of thing, that's the type of thing that you like, and good for you.
You do you.
You do you, guys. You do you. All right, moving on.
Consistency.
We're moving on to WWE news now. So, SmackDown. I'm going to do this a little bit out of order on how we have this, but it seems like they keep setting up A-Town Down Under to break up. I kind of hope that this ends up being, like, that's the swerve of it all. Is that they're doing the setup, they're doing the setup, they're doing the setup. I don't know. I don't think I want them to break up, but also if they are setting this up, the tag team titles have gotten pushed down to the mid-card so much that if either of the tag team title or either of the tag team champions teams from either show were to break up, no one would really know the difference at this point. And that includes Miz and R-Truth. Don't get me wrong. I know you love R-Truth. I love R-Truth. Everyone loves R-Truth. He would still be just as over by himself without the Miz right now.
Yeah, they're just not booking anything with the tag team titles, even the women's tag team titles. The booking of the women's tag team titles is just more like, Bianca and Jade are the tag team champions. There's no real feuds. I know that they're trying to do it right now for this build to Clash of the Castle, but they're really not focusing on the tag team wrestling at all. And I think R-Truth, the Awesome Truth, and A-Town Down Under are two prime examples of it. They just happen to be the champions right now, and then we're going to have a bunch of random tag team title matches for you guys. Enjoy. Where, like, not so long ago, R-Truth was embroiled in the Judgment Day storyline. Judgment Day having both titles was elevating those titles to a very high degree. I think Priest and Balor did a fantastic job with them after taking them. They beat Sammy and Kevin, right, for those titles.
I think so, yeah.
After those were taken off of the Usos, which was such a the tag team
WrestleMania main event.
Yeah, for a long time the tag team titles were in the spotlight, and now it's just like, we broke them up. We didn't really know what we were going to do with them when we broke them up. So let's just give them to these two tag teams that we're not going to really feature. We're just going to give R-Truth and The Miz their funny spot as they give the APA a title shot.
I like that you call them the APA too.
Hey, that's what he gave. He didn't give AOP. He gave APA.
Exactly. The AJ versus Cody setup is getting pretty good with this. I like that they're making this one personal now. It gives me a little bit more hope that this is... I wouldn't mind it if we did your theory that AJ wins this. And I think I think with Cody, this gives it a little bit. With Roman over the course of 4 years, the only person that we thought was ever going to beat him was Cody Rhodes.
Uh-huh.
I think if you have Cody do something where he maybe loses it to AJ now and wins it back at SummerSlam, for one thing, it's a nice little cherry on the top of AJ Styles' career. I don't think he needs it, but it's still nice to have. Like
It's
that.
a swan song. It's his last title match as he actually does go and retire.
And he gets, and I think he's cemented as a Hall of Famer no matter what. I think this absolutely cements him as a Hall of Famer, though. Especially if this feud is as good as it's kind of building to be better than what it started as.
Why was this the first feud? The first one was so lame. Oh, I respect you. Two Georgia boys going at it. Who cares? Most of us aren't from Georgia. Just get into it. Like, give me a heel that we actually feel like can get through Cody, even if it is shenanigans, because he's got two monsters on behind him, the same way that the Bloodline had been dominant for all those years.
Exactly.
So like that's the kind of extra intangible that would have made that first match better. The first match was great, don't get me wrong, and they were very much in the mindset of we just want to give Cody the best match possible. But now I think it's time to give me someone that I think can beat Cody, and I'm we'll get into the Clash of the Castle predictions, but I'm stumped on the entire card. Like I feel like I could go for I can sweep it again. Like I'm not quite sure what's going to happen out here in Scotland.
Logan Paul refuses LA Knight's challenge. This just leads into the fact that it's probably going to be LA Knight and Logan Paul probably at SummerSlam or at like Money in the Bank.
I think he's still getting a clash.
You think they're going to make it like last minute on like Friday?
Yep, on Friday. Pierce is going to come out and be like,
all this is SmackDown.
All this is going to come out, and he's going to be like, you don't get to refuse this. Like I make the cards.
Or I could see him like if Logan Paul happens to be there, be like, well, you're already in Scotland, bud. Guess what? That means that you're defending tomorrow.
Yeah, I think you get this here. Maybe you get it at SummerSlam, but I think that this is where you're going to end up getting.
Or I could see it Money in the Bank too. That's coming up.
Yeah. But you're going to want both those guys in Money in the Bank, right? Did we have either of them in there?
I think we do have them.
We don't have any of them in there. Oh, you have LA Knight. Oh, yeah. I had LA Knight or Logan Paul.
And I had Logan Paul.
You had Logan Paul because you think that LA Knight's going to have the title by then.
Probably. I also thought they were going to set this up for a Clash at the Castle, so I thought he was going to win it here.
That's cool.
So to go along with this, kind of the flow for the next couple segments that we're talking about, Andrade won the Speed title.
Oh, spoilers.
Sorry, spoiler alert if you haven't looked at this. Which is going along with a lot of the Ricochet backstory. So over on Raw, Braun Breaker kind of destroyed Ricochet, thus getting him. So this is allegedly to write Ricochet off TV. I don't fully disagree with this. If this is what's happening, if Ricochet is really not signing, I know Showtime likes to talk about fake news.
Fake news.
And that WWE is funneling fake news into the internet and the world around us. I don't disagree with that idea either. I'm just saying if this is how they write off Ricochet, it's not the worst thing. And also, I'm kind of a little bit more invested in Braun Breaker versus Dragunov anyway. I think we get better matches out of it, better fights. I think Braun needs somebody who's going to take the fight to him, not just a guy who has to out-finesse him. So I think Ilya is the better option. for a first real feud for Braun Breaker, where Ricochet, what are you going to say? He's going to outspeed him? Breaker already proved he's technically faster, right? Like he's
fastest man alive.
Fastest man alive. He's actually faster than Flash, just like the monorail.
Steven, I think you are underestimating the power of the sneakiness here because I think WWE has been doing this a lot. I think that they like to add fake news into the dirt sheets or whatever you want to call them, and just to kind of subvert expectations by saying, "Oh, we're going to report on this," and then doing the opposite. It's like, "Oh, but they said they were going to do this." When has a wrestling company ever lied to me? So I say all that because a lot of the talk that's happening right now around Ricochet is where is he going to go next, and not that I don't actually think that he's going to stay in WWE. I think he is destined to go somewhere else at this point in time. But I think that there is still a very good chance he does stay with WWE. I think that it's it. I think it's almost a 50-50 leaving and staying because I don't trust anything that comes out of that company anymore when it comes to the news. But where do you think he ends up?
So I think I forget his last name. Trevor Mann, I think is his real name. I think Trevor Mann re-signs with WWE, and we don't see Ricochet, but we do see Prince Puma.
Prince Puma comes back, huh?
Prince Puma comes back. I could see that. I could see that happening in like NXT or something like that. Who knows? I think Will Ospreay is fighting hard for him over at AEW, which I think, much like you said, we get a couple of main events between Ospreay and Ricochet, and then he get trickled back down to maybe feuding for the TNT title or something along those lines against Jungle Boy.
Could Prince Puma team up with El Generico? Because I would definitely pay to see that tag team.
Oh, yes.
The
new tag team champions.
I would like to see him go back to New Japan for just a hot minute and then come back over. I think that would be really cool, but I think that he's AW bound. Like if it just like they're begging him to go over there. Him versus Will Ospreay would be great. I just hope he signs a short deal. Keep it under 2 years, man, and then come back. Go over there, make a splash. These guys that are signing 3-year deals, Tony likes to collect his toys. And he likes you for the first 6 months that you're there, and then he moves on to the next toy. Short term,
you're shiny.
It's short term story booking. It's week to week storylines, and I think that Ricochet will find himself lower than where he wants himself to be in a year and a half. So if that contract's over in 2 years, then he'll be able to go back to WWE with all the fame that he did before he starts to fizzle over here.
I absolutely agree with that. Honestly, with how we've been talking about it, I wouldn't mind him going to TNA. I wouldn't mind
that either.
Especially if it's something where like it doesn't sound like there's a whole lot of malicious intent from WWE or Ricochet's side. So if you're still going to keep some type of working relationship with each other, him going to TNA makes a lot of sense at this point because you could get matches with him and Kazarian. You could get matches with him and Nemeth. You could get matches with him and Moose. And you would get good matches out of these guys.
Mm-hmm.
You could throw him in the X division and have him and Mustafa Ali go at it for just 15 minutes of high octane action and really, really put on the show.
I would like to see that. Like he can go in there and win the X Division Championship on night one. Like good. His debut match could come in there, win that. No one's batting an eye, and then he could quickly become world champion there. After that, maybe do that trade in the Plan C. Is that what you said it was?
Yeah, option C. I could see that being like Mustafa Ali basically beats everybody in the X division. I've cleared out the division. There's no one left. So I'm just gonna. I don't even know why I have to wait for option C. Like, and then have Ricochet come in and almost like ruin the option C gimmick for him. Like,
yeah,
hey, I'm gonna come in and I'm gonna take the title from you. So that would be
But
cool.
that'd be cool. But I think he's AEW bound.
I think
They
he's
want him
AEW.
versus Ospreay.
I think unless we're just seeing fake news, AEW bound.
Fake news. It could be fake news. I just want to say, like, it's not clear cut. Nothing in WWE is clear cut anymore.
Nothing. Nothing is for sure. The only things that's for sure is nothing's for sure. We got a good Priest and Drew segment out of this. I thought it was a good promo again. I think the fact that they're allowed to do a little bit of creative freedom with Damian Priest and Drew McIntyre, I think it's making all the difference in the world, because these are two guys who, for one thing, when they speak, I believe what they say. Secondly, they're two grown-ass men. They're two big dudes. I believe that they can beat up most of the world. And I think this is going to be a good match. I like that they set this up where if Drew beats Finn at the end of the night, that the Judgment Day gets banned from ringside.
Yeah, now there won't be anyone to interfere in this match against Drew.
Or, oof. Or will there?
Or will there, Steven?
Or will there? There's been a lot more build up with the Dom and Liv Morgan storyline that's been going on here.
I feel like as soon as we open our mouth being like, there's something about Liv that I don't love, she comes out and does her best work.
She's been, yeah, I turned it all around in the last couple of weeks. Like, I'm like, oh, I really like, all of a sudden, Bratty Liv. I'm in for it. This is some of the best character work that I've seen her do. So if she can string together a couple really good matches, I might have to turn things around and just eat crow on
Problem
this
is,
one.
she's not feuding with anybody. Like, I don't know who she's gonna fight and when. Like, she's gonna fight Dominic
for the women's title,
the intergender title.
Can she fight him for the women's title? If women can fight for the men's title, can men fight for the women's title? If anyone can fight for the women's title, it's Dominic Mysterio.
Oh yeah, he can win it and get even more heat.
Oh, he would get booed out of the building.
And then he had to fight
more than he already does.
Yes.
And then he has to fight Mommy. Or he has to just give the title to Mommy. He's going to go out and win the title for Mommy.
Win the title for Mommy and then do the figure poke of doom. But this time it works.
Because she's bigger than he is. So like that poke might actually really hurt. I do like that Dom is cleared to wrestle again. Just kind of seeing him on the sidelines was, like, it was good enough, but he was kind of just a guy that was standing there because they weren't even really giving him the mic that often while he was hurt. Like, he wasn't doing that much. So at least I'm sure part of this is because they knew he was getting cleared soon. So they were able to kind of build him up a little bit more. So I did like that. I enjoyed the Drew Finn Balor match. Drew beats Finn. Judgment Day is banned from ringside.
And there's
means
no
it's going to be a clean
interfere.
match. No one will interfere.
Not a single person.
Not a single person. No one in the country of Scotland will interfere, except for maybe Joe Hendry.
If you noticed during the segment where Liv left the hotel room key in the Judgment Day's locker room, Finn Balor takes it. I called it last week. I think that Finn is the one. I can see JD going with them, but I think that they're setting up in a big way Finn Balor double crossing the Judgment Day, kicking Damian Priest out of the Judgment Day, whatever it is. I think this is their way to do it, and they're going to have a slow burn for it. And I'm taking what they're doing now. I think the Judgment Day storyline is firing on all cylinders.
Now, does Priest get kicked out of the Judgment Day, or does this just kind of dissolve it?
I think you kind of get two separate factions out of it. I think you might get the Finn, Liv, JD, and Dom, Mommy, and Priest, where the two of them kind of are faces, because I think they're going to bring Rhea back as a face. She's so over. they've been talking about getting Damien as a face, and I don't know in what world you can get Dom to be a
Mysterio.
face at this point in time, but I think if
he'd have to go out and like save his father.
Well, like I do think that there's something to be said that if he this whole time is actually being loyal to Rhea, that will add a little bit of shine to the dirtiness. So that's just my only spot in there. But like honestly, the two can be faces and they can just boo him incessantly and it still works.
I mean, they would chant works. "You suck" for Kurt Angle and still cheer him. So
exactly.
My thing for if and when they break up the Judgment Day, I feel like JD's gonna get left out in the cold, and I'm a little upset by that because he's kind of, I mean, outside of Finn, who's one of my favorite wrestlers of all time, and obviously Priest, who I love, but like JD might be one of my favorite parts of the Judgment Day. He's probably putting on some of the best matches out of them.
I think that after the Judgment Day, he's going to have a hard time figuring out what to do if he's not part of a little faction. To the point where I think after the Judgment Day, he might find himself on that short list of releases when they come around. Because I just don't know what they would do with him. They jobbed him out so hard right now. I just don't know what he can do to get over that hump at this point. I don't know when his contract's up or whatever. But.
Or maybe go over to SmackDown. That's kind of the only.
What's he gonna do over there? Like I could actually see him go down to NXT.
I mean, go back to NXT.
Yeah,
he did a lot of cool stuff in NXT, so I could see that as well. I just think that outside, if the Judgment Day aren't together, I don't know what happens with the members of the Judgment Day, unless, like, obviously Priest is the champion right now. Dom is gonna get booed forever. They'll always cycle back to him feuding with his father. Truthfully, Finn Balor doesn't have to do anything else. And he's probably at the point where he's probably looking to wind it down a little bit.
He might not run at the top.
I wouldn't mind seeing him have a run at the top, but let's face it might be a run at the top to, once again, be a swan song, kind of like we talked about AJ. Let's not forget, Finn's not a young dude either. He's my age, so he's 42, 43 years old right now.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not hard to believe that in the next couple of years, he's going to be winding down a little bit, or at least lightening his load. He's kind of started lightening his load already.
Sure.
But that was Raw. That's WWE. I think that's the majority of what we have coverage for the universe, if you will, of pro wrestling, the business of pro wrestling, the world of pro wrestling. So let's get to our predictions.
Prediction time.
Clash at the Castle in Scotland.
Clash at the Castle.
I'm excited for this show. I'm excited for the crowd. I'm excited for all of these foreign crowds because they are nuts.
What I'm most excited for is I don't know what's going to happen. Like, I am nervous for the first time about my predictions because every single one of these matches can go either way. This is the first time since Mania that even Mania I thought was relatively predictable. This one could really go either way, and I don't have that big of. I have a 5-pick lead on you. You could easily tie it up with this. I can't be losing after today, which is nice. But you could be tied. I can get every one of these wrong.
Just wait until they add matches on Friday, and then I can sail past you.
Maybe we'll see. Well, because I think
we're going to have some of the same picks.
I wouldn't be surprised. Well, let's start. So we're going to start with the 6-person tag match.
Yeah, 3-team tag
Belair. Yeah. Well, is that
3-team tag match technically?
The triple threat tag team extravaganza
for the women's tag team titles of the world.
You have the champions, Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill. The Unholy Union, Shayna Baszler and Zoe Starks. This match is out of left field. Just a bit. This
Because
is
it's a
definitely
women's
one
tag
of
team
those
title
things.
match. That's what happens.
Sure. And they're just kind of adding a little bit of Scottish talent into it. So, Steven, I'll let you go first here because I'm curious what you have to say here.
So I'm going with Bianca and Jade on this one.
Okay.
I don't think that they're going to have the Unholy Union just came back, and I don't think that they're going to have them go over on their superpowers right now, which are Bianca and Jade. I think they're looking to kind of make Bianca and Jade almost unbeatable, which is kind of what they're doing already. Here's my thing with Shayna and Zoe. Though I get that they are different shows and they almost treat NXT like it's a different, almost like a different entity altogether. Shayna Baszler just lost at Battleground. She was knocked out or whatever it was. She got injured. She threw that running knee that she does and ran right into the table of one of the announcers' tables with it. Don't get me wrong, the match at Battleground with her and Lola Vice, really good. In your world, Showtime, it would have been like the Lions Den match with Owen Hart and Ken Shamrock or Steve Blackman or whoever they had that with. Really good, cool way to have a pro wrestling match / shoot fight kind of go along with each other. But I think with that said, you just had Shayna Baszler lose on one of your pay-per-views a week ago. I'm sorry, your premium live events.
And I think she's going to lose again in this match. And I'm going to take the Unholy Union. There's a very key reason why I'm taking them here.
Mysticism?
Well, no, I wish it was just mysticism. It's because there are 3 Scottish entities on this card. Someone's got to win. They can't all lose. You can't go to Scotland and bury the Scottish talent.
Sure.
I think that the what ends up happening is Bianca and Jade decimate somebody like Shayna or Zoe, and somehow the Unholy Union scores the win, and then next week they lose the titles back. Like it's like so quick. It's a flash.
It's just
in the pan.
absurd.
It's but like that's like someone's got to win here. It's either, in my opinion, it's either her or Piper. But I can't see Bayley dropping this belt to Piper right now. It's so unbuilt. It doesn't make sense. Whereas in a with 3 different teams, you can have, this is where shenanigans and wins happen where the champions aren't actually involved. So I kind of like, that's why I'm picking them here. Somebody Scottish has to win a match.
You would think.
Like they have to, right?
We'll see. All right. So next up we have
the Sammy and Chad
for the Intercontinental title, Part 3.
Part 3.
Common sense tells me it should be Sammy, but I'm gonna pick Chad on this one. Because how can you keep having him go after this title and lose, right? Like he's got to win it one of these times. I almost hope that this is them making Otis a full heel and he really screws Sammy out of the title.
I think Sammy wins here. So I'll drop that in here. Steve,
all right, so no matter what, we're picking different people.
Picking different people this time. I agree with everything you just said. I think what this ends up being is Chad Gable's real breaking point. I don't think they're ever going to turn Otis heel. Because I think finally it's going to break and Otis is going to maybe help Sammy when Chad, or like stop Chad from cheating, and then haluva kick or something like that happens, where you can kind of still have another one of these matches if you really wanted to. But I think that's what ushers in the Creed brothers, the Alpha Academy kind of dissolving, all those things. I think that this storyline, this Alpha Academy storyline in Sami Zayn has been brilliant. It's been so good. And I think it's only a matter of time before the Alpha Academy or Chad turn their back on the other. Mostly probably Chad the other way. And then once he goes full on heel, where like doing full heel tactics, he has a heel team behind him. That's when I would put Chad over. But I'm going to have to stick with Sami here.
Like you said, I think it should be Sami, or I think the way they're doing things, it's going to be Sami. If I was holding the pencil right now, I'd book it for Chad, just because it would kind of come out of left field a little bit. But again, this is also a show that's, I hate to say this, but I hate to say it like this, but it's a foreign show. A lot of the international shows, they're not always big on having big names lose their titles on those. Mm-hmm. So I'm still sticking with Chad. I think it should be Chad. That's why I'm sticking with Chad. This is probably going to be one of those ones where you're going to end up picking this all right, and I hate you so much.
Particularly because I said how nervous I am about this one. Like that's really how
I know it. All right. So next is the Women's Championship, the SmackDown Women's Championship. This is Bayley versus Piper Niven. I feel like it's got to be Bayley. I don't think there's a world where Bayley loses this. I think it doesn't make. It doesn't. I think the build is for Bayley versus Nia Jax, and Bayley needs to hold on to it till then.
Agreed. I'm going to take Bayley in this one as well. I just don't see it. I want it. Can I take it if the Unholy Union lose? Then it's Piper, because some Scott's got to win this. So I'm with you on Bayley. I really do think she wins this one. I like Piper. I like Piper a lot. And I think if they would have built this better, I would have believed that she would win this match, but they just didn't.
So
like, it was just kind of thrown in there.
This match in general, since the Royal Rumble, the build of Bayley has been god awful.
It really has been mismanaged, and like I don't think she's super over as a face.
I don't think so. And here's the thing: when I say Bayley's winning this match, also, I'm kind of just saying Bayley keeps the title in this match. I could see, now here's the thing, I could see Piper Niven winning this match, but not winning the title. I could see her destroying Bayley, but at the same time, what I am saying with a lot of times with this is and I always like to clarify that, like when I'm saying it, like Bayley's keeping that title. Bayley is going into SummerSlam as the champion. Bayley's probably going to lose at SummerSlam to Nia Jax. I think that the build for Bayley has been subpar. I think everything that they've done with her is mismanaged. I think the only way, and it's funny because I've seen them do it with Nia Jax before. I'm throwing this one out there right now. I'm on record. I'm on the record saying this. Bayley's going to keep the title here. Nia Jax is going to technically beat her at SummerSlam. Tiffany Stratton is cashing in at SummerSlam and beat on Nia Jax and or Bayley, and walking out of SummerSlam with the world title.
Money in the Bank before SummerSlam?
Yep. Does that sound like logic? Like I don't think
even if Bayley wins, even if she beats Nia, Tiff comes in. I like an immediate cash in. Let's not carry that briefcase around forever. Like That's
the thing. Like I think she's got it for like a month, 2 months tops.
Mm-hmm.
Boom. I don't think we get a cash in that night. Like they've been doing cash ins the night of Money in the Bank. I think we hold on to it for a little bit, but not super long. So, like I said, I think Bayley holds the title here. Next, we have the World Heavyweight Championship. Damian Priest versus Drew McIntyre.
I've said it numerous times, and I'm not going to change my mind on it now. I think WWE is going to wake up in Scotland and choose violence. I think that the Scottish horde is going to lose their frickin' minds because we figured it out. Judgment Day cannot be at ringside to help Damian Priest retain his title. But you know who's not part of the Judgment Day? CM Punk, who is clear to wrestle now, apparently. And he just wants to get Drew angrier and angrier and angrier. I also think, as we said before, Drew versus CM Punk at SummerSlam doesn't need a title involved.
It doesn't. Actually, I think Drew versus Punk actually draws more money without the title right now.
And you allow Gunther versus Damian at SummerSlam. I think it's as easy as that. Like that's the book. Like just lock it in. Like I'm in. Nope. So I've said it once. I've said that like the only way Drew wins this match is via disqualification.
Yeah, I'm going with Priest on this one. And again, same thing. How I said with Bayley, Priest is keeping the title at least.
Yeah,
that's always kind of where I'm going with on this. Is if you want to hold me over the coals to it, Bayley and Priest might not win these matches, but they're walking out with their titles.
Yes. That doesn't you have to get it right in order to get the point, but I'm with you as well. I could easily see Drew winning this match via disqualification.
Exactly. And I actually don't even think that's happening. I think if anything, I don't even think it's going to be a disqualification. I wouldn't be surprised if it becomes just a no contest. Just something happens where is this where we see the dissolution of Finn and Priest even. Finn does come down. He's not supposed to be there. And him and Punk just beat up on the other two guys, basically.
I don't think that's the case. I don't think you'll see that. I think they have too much going on with the Judgment Day storyline to blow it off now. There's still tons of room to kind of wiggle through, particularly because no one seems to know when Rhea's coming back. And I think that's part of what they need to use this to elongate the story a bit.
I agree with that. All right. So, main event of the night, or, well, I guess the co-main event. I think technically the Drew McIntyre match is the real main event of the night.
I wouldn't be surprised if that was the last match on the card.
Yeah, that's gonna be the go-home match. Cody Rhodes versus AJ Styles for the WWE Undisputed Championship. As cool as the storyline is, I like that you came up with. I think this is Cody. It's just I don't know. I like the idea that they could have Cody lose it. I just don't think it's gonna happen. This is the one time I'm going to use a little bit more common sense on this match. So
common sense. Blah. I'm going to go AJ. I think my storyline's too good not to hope that it happens. I want to go into this match believing that Cody could lose to AJ. In my mind, it really doesn't make sense to have the rematch, even though you add the I quit stipulation. And what I've been noticing about Cody Rhodes, I don't know if you've noticed this at all, but they're reusing storylines with him. There's quite a few of them that seem similar to maybe some John Cena stuff that happened in the past, or Mark Henry stuff that happened in the past. I don't know if you remember a certain I Quit match where the person didn't quit but passed out. And that's what I think is going to happen. I think you're going to get the Bret Hart Stone Cold match where Cody doesn't tap, but he passes out in some crazy submission hold, and maybe the calf, was it the calf crusher? And because of outside interference, something where it's clear that Cody should have won this match, but there was shenanigans. And then you get Cody AJ3 as you're waiting for Roman Reigns and The Rock. You give the belt right back to Cody, because then you've proven that, like, oh, do you know what? Cody could lose, and I think it does a lot to help elevate the brand and the title. I know a lot of people will disagree with me, and I get that. Like, Cody can't lose it now. He just won it. He worked so hard. I can't.
So here's the thing. I'm not disagreeing with you. Yeah, like, I'm not disagreeing with you, and I think your storyline, your angle on this is great. I also just don't think they're going to. I just don't think they're going to do it. I think it would be awesome if they pulled the trigger on this. It would be great, because then we're not painting ourselves into a Roman situation where you have 4 years worth of title defenses, and the thing is Cody's also defending a lot more than Roman did.
Sure is.
So that already you're already giving more opportunities for the title to change hands. But
I think
at the end of the day, it's still Cody.
One of the two world titles have to change hands at this show. And I'm convinced it's not Damian Priest and Drew McIntyre. I'm convinced that CM Punk is going to ruin this for him. So,
I mean, it only makes sense.
Give me a reason why else you would book AJ Styles versus Cody too, this close together, just because he jumped him. I'm not buying it. I think that this is a title change. And maybe it's just wishful thinking, and I'll pay for that later. You can only get 3 on me right now, Steven. So so my lead still stays intact, and I'll be more conservative later. But in all honesty, this is what I want to see. I want to see the Unholy Union come out of nowhere with a huge upset that no one thinks that Bianca and Jade can lose. And this is where you start seeding in maybe a little rift between the two of them. Not that much, because next the Unholy Alliance on Raw.
Unholy Alliance are on Raw, I think. I forget.
So next Raw, they lose the titles back in like a squash match. It takes 37 seconds. Sammy Chad is the only one that's a coin flip for me. That, like, I don't know who I'd rather see win. I don't see Piper as world champion today. I could see it later if they built it better, but they didn't. So I think Bayley stays. I'm convinced that Damian, with the CM Punk shenanigans, which will be so heated, that place is going to crumble. Like, it's going to be so crazy on how mad those Scottish people
William Wallace is going to come out of his grave.
Oh my goodness. It's going to be nuclear heat to the next level. And I want to see AJ win. I think it'd be great. I think this is good storytelling. This is like shock. The world will be shocked afterwards, except for me, who has said this is what the way it is. And even if it doesn't go this way, this is the way it should go, because I'm always right. Is it over here today, Steven?
Oh, there it is. Oh, you actually pointed right at it.
Yeah,
Good
right
job. Nice. All right, with those predictions, there is one thing left to do, and that's...
Oh, mail, motherfucker! Wait, Steve, sorry. Oh, so I'll give you your first mailbag. If LA Knight and what's his face? US champion? Logan Paul. Sorry, it's late. If they do have a match, who do you have?
LA Knight.
Me too.
All right. So then, for our only mailbag question comes from Hilly Hill again this week. Are Bianca and Jade really the tag team champions we deserve? She does love them. But when do they break them up and set them up for a singles feud? And the other half of this question is, who comes back first, The Rock or Roman? And does The Rock accompany Solo and claim the faction of the Bloodline? So I don't know. I think the women's tag team title is kind of just, it's there. So saying that we deserve them as the tag team titles or as the tag team champions is kind of, it's almost neither here nor there at this point. This is all just to build them to either a feud or a feud for each one of them. Basically, it's just going to work into a singles push for both of them eventually anyway. I don't know if they're going to feud with each other. I think it's going to be a lot of how far Jade comes along as an in-ring talent, because she still needs to kind of grow leaps and bounds at this point. And I'm not bashing her. This is just what she needs to do to be on par with Bianca, and honestly, with the Biancas and the Tiffany's and the Rias and the people that you want her in there with. There's a lot of growth that you need as a wrestler, and I think that's where it is with them feuding.
I think you get this feud, this blow off match at WrestleMania.
Like Vegas.
So, like Vegas, you have the two of them in a huge match, and like they talk about Bianca's undefeated streak a little bit here and there at WrestleMania. So like that's on the line. I think that can have a lot of really good tension on top of it. I think it starts obviously this week. I just said it with the Unholy Alliance, the Unholy Union, uh, taking the tag team titles for a second to just show that they're not quite as unstoppable as they've been looking, and then they'll obviously crush them the following week. But I think that is kind of, it starts now, and you'll get a slow burn to them starting to get to be too big to be on the same team. As for the actual question, are they the ones we deserve? Yeah, I mean they're a fantastic tag team. Like
and they're an actual
so
tag
dominating.
team.
Yeah, they go out there, they work together well. They have some of the best double team moves out of any tag team that's out there right now. There's some cool stuff that they're throwing out there. So I think yes. The actual thing that I have a problem with is we don't have the competitor or the opposition that we deserve right now. Like there's not a single tag team. I know I just called out the Unholy Union to win this match to get the title, but not beating Jade or Bianca. Like it's one of those things where the champion wasn't involved in the finish and lost her title. So I would like to see, honestly, I would love to see something like a Tiffany Stratton and Nia Jax team up, or somebody else that like you can really see them
You
beating.
need a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah, they're just they're leaps and bounds above everybody else. Like they've already crushed the Kabuki Warriors, so I don't think it can be them. And like maybe it's Piper Niven and Chelsea Green. I can see that if they were to build them up over the next couple months, where like Piper just comes in like a beast, and Chelsea's able to do the really good in ring work she can do. I could see the fans getting behind that, but there's really no one I see right now that stands a chance against them.
So this wasn't part of the question, but I'm gonna go off on a little bit on a side tangent about Bianca, because we talked about this several shows ago about whether Bianca using her hair as a weapon should be a disqualification. I finally found the likeness that I could use it for, because kind of how like we were trying to use foreign objects. Here's the thing: it's still on her body, even though it's a fake part of her body. So Lex Luger was not allowed to use the loaded forearm. If he did, it was a disqualification. It was still part of his body, but he was not allowed to use it. He was even made to cover it up at one point. So I think it falls under the same category as that. I realized I had to stretch back, 30 years to figure out an answer for it, but at the same time, it came to me a couple days ago, and I really wanted to bring it up on the show because that's what we do.
I disagree because I have also thought about this, funnily enough, and I think the rule is so it's her hair. If I were to grab a handful of your hair, I'd get a 5 count, right?
Okay.
To let it go before I get disqualified. So if she hits you with the hair, she gets a 5 count to stop. It's no difference. It goes both ways. That's what I came up with you for the other day. I forgot to bring it up.
We're going to keep going. This is going to get brought up every couple weeks. You know this, right? Like, we're going to keep coming up with stuff.
But there's already a hair rule. Why doesn't it go both ways?
All right. And we're both pretty sure, we talked about this already, that Roman is going to return first. The Rock is still making a couple movies right now. I know he's doing the Smashing Machine. I think he has something almost immediately afterwards. I think Roman's already wrapped on his movie. He's already ready to come back. I don't think he gets wasted on anything more less than SummerSlam, though, is when he comes back. I had someone say that they think it could be they could hold the Rumble spot for him, but we also me and the other person also both agreed Roman doesn't have the best luck with Royal Rumbles, so maybe putting him in the Rumble is not the best spot for him either. But I think we both agree that it's going to be Roman, and it'll probably be SummerSlam.
I agree. It's Roman. I'm with you on that front. I do like the idea of The Rock being in the Royal Rumble. So
I think The Rock being in the Royal Rumble. I don't think Roman's going to be in the Royal Rumble.
Oh, I can see that. You had mentioned some things about. Did you say like does The Rock come back and like take over the bloodline?
Claim yeah. He's been pulling the strings.
So I think that there's going to be some fracturing of the bloodline. And it's not quite as clear cut yet. I do think that The Rock comes back and takes part of the faction. I think Tonga Loa, and I'm going to butcher this name. Hikuleo?
Hikuleo. Yeah. The other brother.
The other brother who's like 11 feet tall. I think he's going to make an appearance sometime soon. And it's going to be like Haku's kids versus Fatu's kids.
This is a lot.
Right? And so you'll see Solo get kicked out. And the Usos come to save their baby brother. I think he's the younger brother, right?
Yes.
And so after all that's said and done and all this stuff, and Roman, like based on the story they told, Roman was always closer with the Usos. And so like that'll be the one side versus the other side. And then there's the name is completely escaped me. Who's the one that they signed that they haven't come out yet?
Jacob Fatu. So it's another Fatu.
So it's another Fatu. So he goes in the Fatu side, which has nothing to do with that.
It would also make sense that The Rock would team with the Haku sons because he was always closer with Haku.
Yes.
That does make sense.
That is what I think we're building towards. Like maybe that's a Survivor Series kind of match. Or maybe the Haku side needs another brother, and it looks like there's more brothers. So maybe get another one.
There's so much.
I saw a giant family tree. Just pick a couple apples, and we'll be good.
It's just somewhere.
So that's where I kind of think that goes eventually.
I could see that. I could see that. It's just because I came up with it. I really hope that this doesn't turn into Bloodline versus Bloodline, even though I know that's what's going to happen. I really, really, I'm going to keep saying it, and I'm going to keep hoping that I manifest it. I want to see this new Bloodline versus the Shield. It's what I want. It would draw
Not gonna
so much. It's never gonna happen. Let me have this one a little bit. It's not gonna happen. It's not gonna happen.
Dean
But
Ambrose is so locked into his contract. There's no unless he gets released.
I don't know how long his contract's for though.
It's like 2027 or something stupid.
Is it? I don't even know. I don't know, but at the same time, money talks, and there's a lot of money that would be involved in that.
Yeah, the deal keeps Moxley in AEW until 2027.
Okay,
I
well
just
that's
don't
not
know
gonna
how
happen.
he gets out of that deal.
He's gonna retire after that. 'Cause he's making 7 figures over at AEW. But I think that's our show for this week, guys.
I think that's what we
Again,
got.
always appreciate the questions. We will meet everyone back next week for our our PLE predictions, our pay-per-view predictions, whatever we want to call them, premium live events, if you will.
When I clean sweep Steven again with the trepidation.
With trepidation. We'll see. And again,
I'm scared.
If any matches do get added to Clash at the Castle between now and Saturday, we will obviously make our predictions off the record. Well, on the record, but off camera, obviously. But other than that, guys, all of our links for social media, for emails, for the nonprofits, for friends of the show, they will be all in their descriptions. As I've said on both our varying groups, if you have any questions and you want to either ask them through the group or through our emails, please, it's info@stillelariat.com is the main questionnaire one. I'm also fine with it if you want to just send us personally the questions, especially if it's a personal question just for one of us. That's cool too. We will answer it on the air no matter what. But other than that, I've got nothing else for tonight. So, guys, folks, friends, have a good night. Showtime, you got anything else to add?
We appreciate the support and we love you guys.
Love you. Have a good night, everybody.